Welcome back to the kickoff. Today we are joined by a bit of YouTube football royalty in Big Babs, the Arsenal man himself. Welcome back to the kickoff, brother.
Yes, bro. I'm back. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate the invite. Don't appreciate the result, though.
No, I'm sad for you because this seems like I've really done a bit like, yeah, this is like Babs back on now. Brilliant.
Yeah, no, this is on purpose, man. How you guys doing there?
All good, mate. I mean, I'm especially good. It's weird, but you know when you know your own football club so well, and the lads will vouch for this because we've been in a group chat, and I'm like, I'm telling you now, I think we're going to beat Arsenal, if not at least a draw. I've been saying it for a good few days, and it's just one of those predictable things that happen sometimes. But the consequences of this, I mean, it's debatable because of Man City dropping points, but it does feel like with Mikel Arteta being under more and more pressure, it just felt like such a disaster result. I guess my first question is, what's your biggest frustrations with that game?
I think my biggest frustration was our creativity. I think, look, Newcastle's goal, you can't do much about it. It was top class, moment of magic, but then the way you guys stifled us for the rest of the game, was fantastic as well. But when you're a team fighting for the title and Newcastle, let's not forget, we were out of form. Was it 5 league games without a win? Mm-hmm. You've got to make a chance or two. We made that one chance right at the end with Rice, but that was about it. And I think if you're fighting for the title, you need to make more opportunities out of something. You have to get a result, even a draw. I think, like City, an example, when you played City this season, at your ground, it was a very even game as well. I'm sure you had chances in that game, but I think Gordon was in 1-on-1 a few times, but he still got a result out of it. Whereas now, you look at Arsenal this game here, a loss, was it 6 points behind City now? Was it 7 points behind Liverpool? Something like that. It's not looking good.
Yeah, I don't know about the Chelsea boys. What were your takeaways from it, lads, when you were watching the game? Were you shocked at the fact that Arsenal were just sort of pedestrian?
I didn't listen. I almost expected there to be some sort of drama in this game. Like, I think that the loss that Newcastle took to Chelsea in the league last weekend was almost like a bit of a wake-up call of we really need to get our shit together now. And it's past the point of people feeling sorry for us because our hands are tied and, injury crises and what else not. It's at that point now where if you don't start getting your shit together, then this guy that we all love in Eddie Howe, and I'm speaking from a player's perspective, he's going to be under some serious sort of pressure. Mm-hmm. Then we saw it in the week through against Chelsea when you guys knocked us out the cup. So I did think that the warning signs were there. And obviously, look, like results-wise wouldn't necessarily suggest it, but I have seen a lot more fragilities in Arsenal earlier on this season than I had seen before. They're the same sort of ones for the most part, but it's occurring a little bit earlier on this season.
I feel like Odegaard, we're really seeing how valuable he is to this Arsenal side, because with him not in the side, the glue is just not there. And although Newcastle did fucking defend really well off the ball, like we worked balls off, Livramento and Lewis Hall down those wings. I mean, Martinelli and Saka really marked out the game. I think Lewis Hall really made a statement in this game of like, I am the future England left back, 100%. But to be honest with you, I think the Arsenal player should be, I think they should feel like they've let the fans down a bit, because Trossard and Havertz, as much as we were working hard, defending hard, it was easy. They didn't make it hard enough, is what they should have done. And another thing I was thanking me lucky stars for during this game is that Mikel Arteta still hasn't learned his lesson in regards to like needing a totally different option, and also pulling the trigger earlier and throwing, a cat amongst the pigeons with a striker coming off the bench. Obviously, Jesus eventually comes on, but, it was pretty easy defending against him. They need someone else, something completely different to throw on there. And I feel like they're still paying the price for their recruitment. What do you reckon, Babs?
To an extent, I agree. I think, in terms of the plan B, I think it's true. You look at like last year Real Madrid in the Champions League when you got Hostel coming off the bench, and it's a different option. It doesn't have to be a world-class striker starting from the get-go. It has to be just someone who's a different profile. Gabriel Jesus is similar to what we have. Exactly. And it wasn't working in that game. You guys made it very physical. But also, you talked about Havertz and Trossard there. I think Mikel's making a slight mistake here. He's overcompensating for Odegaard's absence, because Havertz as a striker was doing very, very well. He was scoring goals on a week-in, week-out basis, scoring scoring in big games and causing issues. Moving into the right-hand side and playing Trossard in that like kind of hybrid role, you've kind of disrupted two roles now. You've taken Trossard out of his best position and likewise Kai Havertz. So it's annoying, man, because he's done it in the past years as well, where he's always overcompensated if a player gets out injured. When the top sides like Pep Guardiola, what he does, an example is, if a player is missing, he'll adapt to the players that are available. What Mikel does, he keeps the same system and tries to get the players to move around. And I think in this like current Arsenal side, there's too many Arsenal players that have been disrupted. You know, you've taken striker out, affects Saka's game, affects Trossard, Martinelli doesn't look good either. The midfield was too defensive in my eyes as well. And I get it because Newcastle are physical and you're strong and you can bully teams. But the fact that we didn't start Wanyeri, a lot of Arsenal fans are disappointed because he's the closest profile that we have to Ødegaard, a technical player in that final third, pick the ball up there between the lines, can play as well. And it's a very annoying performance. I can't lie. I was very like, this is the most angry I've been after an Arsenal game in a while. It was quite embarrassing, to be quite honest, you know, creativity wise. We had our one shot on target all game. And that's credit to Newcastle. I think you're a very good defensive side. When you guys have that lead, you can defend it. You're very aggressive. You jump in your faces, very compact. I saw the stat after the game that in the middle of the park, we had no passes in that around the box. It was all sideways. It was a very clear game from Newcastle. Get the ball out wide to Saka and Martinelli, double up, triple up there, and they're not going to get inside the box because our striker and Havertz is playing in midfield. So it was a joke.
I feel like Arteta, he's probably going to start hating Eddie Howe because Eddie Howe has 3 wins over him in the last 4 games. And I mean, how many people can say that over Mikel Arteta in the past few years? Arteta, for all he's getting criticism right now, has been world class in those past few years. But I definitely think you're right about having that runner in between the lines. Like, that is something Newcastle religiously struggle with. I mean, for 20 years, we've struggled with that. So to not have someone doing that job, it really blew my mind. And one player who's coming up for a bit of criticism is actually an ex-Newcastle player in Marino, who you just signed. Are you seeing this amongst the Arsenal fan base as well? Are you feeling that? Because my mate, Jacob, who we have on the show, he is not impressed at all. And I've, you know, when he played for Newcastle, he was a bit of a baller. I was impressed with the way he could do a bit of everything. But is he not finding it right at Arsenal right now?
He's been in and out of the side. He's come in at a tough part of the season. And also, we've not played our best midfield. So he's kind of overcompensating as well from no Ødegaard. So he's got to be creative like he's not really. You know, but the Liverpool game was a good example where he kind of struggled at the start, made a really poor mistake. Salah was given a chance. But after that, he grew into the game, played on the left-hand side, kept it simple and played to his strengths. And I think that's the thing with Marino is he's not a well beater. We've not signed Jude Bellingham. And I think fans are expected that because when a club signs a new player, fans go, oh, this guy's got to be the best straight away. You don't look at his weaknesses, you look at all of his strengths. And he's got a lot of strengths to his game. But I think fans realize in this game that he's not as creative a passer or adventurous in his, you know, passing going forwards. And in a game like against Newcastle, where you're very aggressive in your mid block, to break those lines, they thought he would be a bit more like Xhaka, where he could just play a pass to cut the lines. And he's not that player. And even if he is, he ain't got the confidence right now going to St James's Park, you know, former ground as well, to go and play those passes. And I also think it's a bit over the top, you know. I think he's a fine player, and for what he cost Arsenal, he's going to be calm as well. But, you know, listen, when you lose a game and you're 7 points off the title race, and you know how Arsenal fans are, AFTV and chill, popcorn's back out, like, that's how it is, man. Our fan base is very emotional. As guys saying to me, exactly, and they were like to me, title race is over, man. I'm like, bro, we're 10 games to the season, man. Like, if you're going to say team needs to have the balls, we have to have balls as fans as well when your team's backs against the wall. So go back the team, man, because they've given us a lot of reasons in the past few years to back them.
Josh, I want to go into you, mate, because Arsenal, the one thing we know about Arsenal usually, the one of the main reasons that they're in the title race is because of clean sheets, good defending. That's not really been the same this season. And Babs just alluded to the fact that the fans feel like the title race is over. Do you feel like, you know, without those clean sheets, that this title race is over now? Do you think that they're finished?
Look, 7 points after 10 games is a lead in which if it was Man City, I would be saying it's completely insurmountable. I would have been saying it's over. But, you know, Bav said this in his video and that he did on reviewing the game. And I think he's completely right in this, in that it's very difficult to say that any of these teams are going to be guaranteed to get 90 points, especially with the way that they've started. And in fact, the only team that you can really confidently say that about is, you know, the potential of that is Liverpool. But you never know with Slot what's going to happen. Like, they've started the season so well. They haven't necessarily had the hardest games in the world. Obviously, they have had to deal with Arsenal. They dealt with Chelsea very well, but I still think there are tough games coming, in the near future for Liverpool. And I want to see how they sort of mitigate those challenges before we sort of deem them to be sort of title elect. But, with that being said, the chasm is really concerning. And so if Arsenal don't start pulling together the form in which got them to be title challengers previously, and they don't start looking as solid as they did in defence very, very quickly, then obviously it's just going to be, the title's going to be taken away. The most concerning thing for me is the goal that you scored against Arsenal was what I would sort of call like a 90s sort of basic goal. Yeah. It was a winger taking on a fullback on the outside, a ball whipped in. And look, we have to give credit to Newcastle. I mean, that ball in from Gordon.
It was world class, wasn't it?
It was exceptional. And he's found the gap in between the two centre backs. But I have to say, last season, I think even we were chatting about it with Babs. We were saying that Gabriel and Saliba were one of the best centre-back partnerships we've seen in the Premier League for a very long time. And in fact, we were having debates about, is Saliba better than Van Dijk? And, these are big claims, right? And I think rightly so, right? Because they deserve that. But to leave a player like Alexander Isak in the middle of the pitch, who, quite frankly, after the game was joking with the reporter saying he's not known as a header of the ball.
He never scores them, ever.
Ever. Yeah. And for the banter to go on Sky Sports and say he doesn't even like heading the ball and to get to do that, to beat those two centre backs, it's something that does concern me. And look, you could say that there are injury impacts in the Arsenal defence. But you look at the starting 11, really, the only player that you're really missing is Ben White. And
Odegaard.
You could then, yeah. And no, but I mean out of the defence.
Oh, the defence, sorry.
Yeah. And so I don't think you can blame the injuries from that perspective. There are players that are maybe sort of, not quite fit and not quite match fit, but really, there aren't excuses anymore. So yeah, look, the defence is definitely an issue. And I'd love to know how Bav sees it, in the way that he sees it going forward,
Joy, would you say that the title race is over for Arsenal, or do you still think they can pull this back?
Nah, I never think at the 10 game of the season mark you could say that the title race is over. But what I worry about with Arsenal is defensively, over the past 2 seasons, they've just been so good, haven't they? Whereas this time round, I don't know, the thing is, the eye test and the stats can be very, very different, right? So I can draw reference to my club. We look shaky in defence, and I'm never really confident when the ball gets into that final third that our defenders are going to make the right decisions. I'm quite confident in our midfielders, in the likes of Caicedo and Lavia, and maybe Cucurella, who's inverting, but I'm never that confident in terms of our actual centre-backs making the right decisions. Whereas with Arsenal, I don't get that feeling as much. But then you look at the stats, and this is where it differs from the eye test, and it's like 11 goals conceded in the league. That's the same as Chelsea's. Yet on the eye test, I feel like Chelsea looks shakier. To make it even more damning, that's the same as Man United's, in terms of 11 goals conceded.
That's fucking mind-blowing, by the way. Jesus.
Yeah, which is obviously a fair few more goals at this point than they'd conceded last season when they got off to a stronger start. I think that what I would draw confidence from, if I was Babs, if I was Jacob, if I was any Arsenal fan out there at the moment, is that the Man City loss yesterday is better for me than a Liverpool loss, I would say. Yep. Because with Man City dropping points, what you've got to think is they've got Rodri out for a considerable amount of time. I've not looked at Man City this season and thought that they've looked brilliant. I think that, I'm not going to say they scraped past anyone, but I think that in seasons gone by, the game against Fulham would have been wider, and a couple of their other games would have been wider scorelines. So I don't think that they're in as phenomenal sort of form. And then I'd look at Liverpool and I would say, okay, so far so good. But ultimately, what we know about, let's say, for example, Man City, is when they get past the turn of Christmas, we know they come on strong, yeah? What we know about certain teams and that is written to certain teams' DNA, we have no evidence on Liverpool yet to know that. So before we have that sort of evidence to know that these are their character traits under Arne Slot, we can't really jump the gun and say just because they're in the best position. So I think that it doesn't make it a free hit yesterday that you drop points, but I think that it's more beneficial for you that Man City lost than Liverpool to lose, for example, because I think there's still the uncertainty around Liverpool. But again, like, I would just take it back to the areas that you've addressed. And I think there's always context to it, isn't there? Because when you go into the transfer market, it's so easy for a fan to go, oh, well, they went and got Raheem Sterling when they could have. You don't know the details and the context of the business that's been able to do, and who you bring in and who you don't bring in isn't always necessarily an indication of who you wanted to bring in, who you were trying to bring in, and who you were able to bring in. But not having creative backup for Odegaard, for me, is more important than not having an all-out number 9 or something like that. You know, a lot of Arsenal fans were hanging their hopes on Kai Havertz to be able to score the goals, and let's not pretend that his goal return since he's joined Arsenal hasn't been good, but I don't feel that he is that natural number 9 that maybe they might need. So, you know, the recruitment, I think, needs to be looked at in January. But ultimately, I see Arsenal having enough class to remain in that top 3. And if you're there or thereabouts, I am looking at the way this season's starting, and I'm feeling like no one's going to be real front runners that just absolutely leave everyone else behind. And I include City in that. However, I did sit around the kickoff table and say that last season. I said it the season before, and ultimately City have always come up trumps. So it's a hard one to call, but I wouldn't be too down in the dumps just yet. But as an Arsenal fan, take away results. I would want to see performances getting better.
I feel like you're a lot more, you're a lot more positive than me, Joey, because I'm looking at Arsenal this season thinking, I have not seen the levels just in the performances at all. Then the stats are also more negative. I'm not seeing anything, and I look at every single title winner I've ever seen. I think Arsenal look way less like title winners than they did the season before that right now. Things aren't clicking for whatever reason. We talked about recruitment. We've talked about, lacking the gel of Odegaard, and also the goals conceded. I mean, Liverpool have only conceded 6 to Arsenal's 11. One of the feelings within the club is has Arteta, and this is from some fans. I mean, I watched this compilation of our game of people reacting to it yesterday, and I was shocked. And I know online fans can be fucking melodramatic, right? Speaking as the person who probably invented that. But there was a lot of them saying it's enough of Arteta and it's time to fucking move on. Now, what do you make of that, Babs?
Look, I've seen it all, and it's annoying, especially someone who's advocated Arteta so much, how it takes, 2 defeats this season, our first 2 away defeats in a row since 2022, for this to change like that. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans, we kind of forget when we were in 2019, before Arteta came in, we would be happy with top 4. Let's not forget that we fought for the title first in 22-23. No one kind of expected it. It came out of nowhere. So Arsenal fans had this expectation that came out of nowhere. It's like, okay, now we're going to fight for the title. And Mikel Arteta has done very well for that. But I get the pressure as well. We want to win trophies and stuff. But I highly doubt that if we win the Carabao Cup this year and don't win a title, that fans are going to be satisfied. The people will always go and say, well, where's the league title? Where's the Champions League? And I think that's my main objective still this season. So the pressure is building, but I think in Arteta's case, if he can adapt in the next few games, I think these next 2 games are, I'd argue, 2 of his biggest in his Arsenal career. Or maybe not as much as Inter Milan away, but Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Because look, you've got 1 point out of your last nine games. Liverpool a draw, and obviously 2 losses against Bournemouth and Newcastle. You need to win at Stamford Bridge now. You need to win there. And it's going to be hard because Chelsea are in good form as well. But if you can get a win there, you can turn the season around. Now, thankfully, I think the news is that Martin Odegaard is back, I think, for Wednesday's game. So he should be fit for the game on Saturday, or Sunday, sorry. And I think that could change the entire season. But the pressure of Arteta's future will be decided for me at the end of the season. It's way too soon to say, okay, you should sack him now, but it's building. It's because Arsenal fans are getting, they're impatient. They want that title because, I'll be real with Arsenal fans as well. They seek validation. They want validation from other fans. They want to go, oh yeah, you're a great side. and they don't see their own greatness sometimes of how good the side they have been. They want the other fans to go, Arsenal are amazing. Well, I don't give a shit about the other fans. Like, what I care about is Arsenal doing the job, getting the results, and, you know, objectively looking at the performances going, that needs to improve, rather than like, oh, what are Chelsea fans thinking about Arsenal? I don't care about that. I'm an Arsenal fan. And I feel like that's why part of it, the pressure's building because of the rival fans. They keep asking the questions of where's your titles? You know, where's your trophy? One trophy in 5 years, and it gets to them. And it's fine. It's emotional. But, for me, this is the year for Mikel Arteta. You need to win a league title. If you don't, context is very important as well. But say if we finish third and we're like 10 points off and we've, you know, not got any investment coming in the summer, then there will be questions asked, man. But then again, look, if we sack Arteta and you get Inzaghi from Inter Milan or you get someone else like that, there's no guarantee that he appreciates or likes the players that Mikel has hit. So you might have to start again a little bit. And we've seen, you know, obviously Liverpool's under Slot, but like we talked about it, the easiest fixtures so far this season, like apart from Arsenal and Chelsea, they've had an easy run. And the game against Arsenal, no one talked about it, but they came to the Emirates. We had quite a few players missing. Gabriel went off in the second half early on, and they barely did anything to us. You know, it took until Miles was playing a left back and Partey was a right back, Kivio and Ben White a centre back. So 4 players almost out of position for them to score a goal. But no one talked about it. It was all about, Arsenal should have got the win. So look, for me, I think it's far from over. I'm actually, and I'm going to say this with chest, I'm still fairly confident that we'll be back in this race very soon, because City's a team I'm more worried about than Liverpool, because Liverpool, I haven't seen them against more top sides. City as well, you know, we talked about yesterday. I don't know if you guys watched the game, but Bournemouth should have been 3-4-0 up in that game.
4-0.
3-4-0 up comfortably.
4-0 up, easy, they
and
should have been.
Exactly. And then I'm talking about, what was it, the game against Fulham this season where Adama Traore was in time and time again. Against Arsenal with 10 men, they made next to nothing. They were seconds away from losing that as well. So I'm not convinced by City.
Wasn't there the season, man. I said it originally, like, we weren't great, but City weren't great even in that game. Ultimately, you look at the scoreline, you say, well, it wasn't that close, but I felt we were unlucky to not come away with a draw from that game.
I feel like Newcastle, we competed much better with City this season as well. So I do think that we're not looking at the same City and Arsenal of the past couple of years. And I think for that reason, Liverpool fans should be very, very excited, to be honest with you, especially with that fresh new look that they've got. But going back to the Arteta thing, be careful what you fucking wish for, Arsenal fans, let me tell you, because I remember a time where Newcastle had a similar thing where out of nowhere, we're back in the top 4. And this is years and years ago. Sir Bobby Robson. Yes, I'm going back down memory lane. Sorry. But we got into the top 4. Then the next season we made 3rd. And, you know, naturally fans think, well, 4th, 3rd, the next season, we're right up there. And we took a couple of steps back and we went into 5th and they sacked him. And it was the biggest mistake, or one of the biggest mistakes in football history, because then the next guy came in and we went right back to square one again. And the point is success isn't in a straight line. And sometimes you will have to go up, we've made a mistake. This guy, it's his first fucking football management job. To say he's not going to make any mistakes with recruitment or tactics, or that he's not going to need to learn a thing or two along the way, would be absolutely mental. This is one of the greatest, managerial runs, first ever job I've ever seen in my entire life, at one of the most competitive points in football history, where you're going up against not only the best manager, but unlimited money, amazing squad inherited by Pep Guardiola. And he's just basically almost unbeatable. So, in any other era, Arteta would have a couple of titles, right? So, I think that any Arsenal fan right now saying Arteta out, you're completely mental. And I've been critical of Arteta. I think sometimes he could be a bit more aggressive and more front foot football, and he is a little bit too conservative, and he does rely on individual brilliance sometimes. I used to say the same thing about Southgate, ironically, but I think he's far more, technically smart than that guy, and I think he just needs more time to get things right. And at the very least, I'd give him till the end of next season. No matter what happens this season, because for the progress he's made at that football club, if you do take one step back this season, I think he should have enough cash in the bank with the fans to deserve a bit better support. And I think some of them should be fucking ashamed of themselves to slag off a former player and someone who's transformed your club from a no-hope club to a bit of a joke to now literally pushing Man City within an inch of their life with not that much money spent. I find mind-blowing that anyone anyone would even utter the words Arteta out. And this is exactly why Arsenal fans got a bad reputation when they spoke about Arsene Wenger like a piece of shit, when he literally practically built that fucking football club to some degree. And you know what? It's like, Karma comes for people sometimes. They need to get behind the manager, in my opinion. This is mental. Am I wrong, lads? Am I talking shite?
You know, when you say as well, and Babs was saying about overachieving, like, look at Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. He had 2 off seasons in there, and one of them, like, I remember one of them, they strung a run of wins together towards the season, and ultimately the league finish didn't look that bad. But for quite a while, they were sitting like 7th, 8th in the league and things like that. And it goes to show your point, Brian, about sticking with something. With what you've got with Arteta, there's always the thing. And listen, like, I've got Arsenal mates, and I'm guilty of it myself. Everyone likes to throw a bit of banter around here and there and say, oh, you know, still no trophies, or just the one FA Cup and whatnot. But at the same time, what he has built there, and what he has built on the foundations that he's got there, there's not going to be another manager that understands the club and is able to build on from this point. I don't believe he's like, say, like Pochettino, right? And this is very early to call it, but Pochettino was almost the guy that took Chelsea. If things carry on going the way they're going and we get a European Champions League spot under Enzo Maresca, Pochettino was the guy that took us from the shit place and then got us to the place where then someone could come in, be a bit more ruthless, push us on, things like that. For me, I don't feel like Arteta's that guy. I feel like Arteta's the guy that if you're going to win something, it will be under him. But ultimately, what you've got to remember here is look at the points tallies that you've accumulated. And if you weren't in the era of Manchester City, this would be a manager we're speaking about that would have a couple of Premier League titles to his name. And
we'd be talking about him like the hottest young manager in world football right now, in fact.
Yeah, no, he would. 84 points, 89 points.
Yeah.
In his first ever job. Do you know what I mean? And like, I think fans will go, oh, Arsenal spent like £600 million, but compared to City, you know, they're winning league titles and they're spending £90 million on Gavardio, £100 million on Grealish.
So did Man United.
Exactly, man.
You know what I mean?
And if we don't invest money, it'd be like, oh, but you don't spend money. So you can't win either way with these guys. That's the thing with him. But like, as I said, I think this is, I've got a lot of confidence for this team this season, especially with Martin Odegaard returning as well. And the fact that, you know, as you said, we talked about this not being the same league and no one's going to get 90 points this year. That's a good thing for Arsenal. That means we can make mistakes this year and still get back into the race. But we've lost 3 league games all year. And we're in November now. I can't like sit here and go, you know, because look, I've been there in 2019, 18, 17, all the times there where we're, you know, getting battered by big 6 sides constantly, 6-0 at Stamford Bridge, 8-2 at Old Trafford. We've gone 500 days without losing a game in the big 6. 500 days. And then fans are sitting there going, oh, but you know, defensive football, but it's working in those games. And sometimes, yeah, Mikel can improve as well, but a game like yesterday, Newcastle, you know, they scored a fantastic goal, but how many clear-cut chances did they have? Like clear-cut one-on-ones. So the defense, even though it's conceded goals, isn't as bad as we make it out to be sometimes. And that's why for me, look, man, I'm confident, man. I think this is the year for Arsenal still.
I think you're very much going to be tested though, and this would come from a place of bias. But as a Chelsea fan, look, this could age horribly. Maybe by the time this video goes out, maybe something's gone wrong in the Man United game, but I'm very, very confident in our attack this season. I've already spoke earlier on about in the video about our defence and understanding that it looks shaky at times, it looks unorganised, and it doesn't feel like we've quite got it clicked just yet. But in attack, I'm very, very confident. So I really feel like, and Brian will have first-hand experience of this from how Newcastle came to Stamford Bridge. I really feel like Arsenal should come to Stamford Bridge, and I'm not saying play negative football, but they should definitely have a defensive attitude about them. Yeah. Because if you come to Stamford Bridge looking to prove a point off of the back of those 2 defeats and almost the pressure and mountain of, we can't have 3 away defeats in a row, especially after a midweek trip to Italy. If you come to Stamford Bridge and really do try and go for us, put all that emphasis on Odegaard being back and the creativity, we are honestly, and I'm not just saying it because I'm a fan, we are one of the best counter-attacking sides in world football on our day. We can cut teams to ribbons, and 99% of it maybe comes down to Cole Palmer, but you speak about having Odegaard. We've got Cole Palmer there. So I think that Chelsea test for you is going to be the acid test. And if that doesn't go your way, and I feel like and I'm on about go your way. Like, I'm not even saying if Chelsea beat you. I'm saying if it doesn't go your way, if you don't beat Chelsea, I think that's the point where it starts to get to the point where you're like, right, okay, mathematically, law of averages, we're going to lose more games this season, and this is going to be really, really difficult to keep up with the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool. So it's as much as you want to keep calm and you don't want to throw the baby out the bathwater, this is a huge 7 days ahead for you.
And in my opinion, just to round this up, lads, I think if that doesn't go Arsenal's way, I do still think that the fans do need to stick behind the team and the manager. Let them get a plan B in. Maybe get a shot of Raheem Sterling, because that didn't seem to be working out, and have a rejig and come again next season. We've seen, as I can't remember who made the point earlier with Liverpool. They had a couple of stutters. They came back strong, after a bad season. It's so possible. And even looking at like Newcastle right now, sometimes a manager just needs to get back inside the minds of his football players and get them refocused. And you imagine how hard it is to just consistently win. Like, eventually players get run into the ground. Eventually they need a bit of the pressure gets to them, and they need a moment to reconfigure things. So I just think that, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because that's what I was hearing a lot of after the match yesterday, and I was stunned. Anyway, we'll wrap it up there. Big love to Baz for coming back on the kickoff, even after a defeat. God bless, mate. You can check his YouTube channel out in the description below. We will be back for another video very soon on the kickoff. Catch us next time.